这个故事如果你听起来不累，那么你的听力水平在生活中是完全够用的。要持续提升英文，记得点击订阅按钮。我们开始吧。
England many centuries ago. Night came early in winter. Stone streets turned black, and the wind pushed cold air through every crack in the walls. In a small workshop near the town gate, a young boy named Will worked long after the market closed. The shop made swords. Real swords. Long steel blades that shone like frozen water when light touched them. Knights, guards, and travelers all came to this place. They trusted the old sword maker who ran the shop. His hands were slow but steady, and people said no blade in 3 counties could match his work. Will wanted to learn that craft more than anything. But wanting something and earning it were very different things. The first night he arrived, he thought he would touch steel. Maybe even help shape a blade. Instead, the old sword maker placed a candle in his hand and pointed to the work table. "Stand there," the old man said. That was the whole job. Stand. Hold the candle. Keep the light steady. The room smelled of hot metal and smoke. Sparks jumped when the hammer struck. Will's arm grew tired in less than 10 minutes, but he said nothing. The sword maker worked in silence, shaping the glowing steel while the small flame shook in the boy's hand. Hours passed. When the blade was done, the old man looked at Will's shaking arm and gave a short nod. "Come back tomorrow night." Will walked home proud and confused. He had not touched the sword. He had not used the hammer. He had only held a candle. Yet something about the work felt important. Weeks passed. Every night the same task waited for him. Hold the candle close. Not too close. Do not block the light. Do not let the flame shake when the hammer falls. More than once hot sparks flew toward his face. Once a drop of melted metal burned the wood floor inches from his shoe. Still he held the candle steady. Travelers came and watched the old sword maker work. Some spoke quietly. "That boy works here. He just holds the candle." Laughter sometimes followed. Will heard every word. One evening a tall soldier stepped into the shop. His armor was dusty from the road, and a long scar crossed his cheek. He studied the nearly finished blade on the table. "Fine work," the soldier said. Then he glanced at Will. "You plan to teach him?" The old sword maker kept working. "He cannot even hold the candle right yet." The soldier laughed loudly. "Then he surely cannot hold a hammer." Will's face burned hotter than the forge. That night he nearly quit. His arm ached. His pride hurt even more. Standing in the corner with a candle while others shaped steel felt small, almost foolish. But something stopped him from leaving. The old sword maker had noticed something during those long nights. The boy never complained. Not when the smoke filled his eyes. Not when the sparks jumped. Not when people laughed. Winter ended. Spring rain began to fall across the town roofs. One quiet evening, the old man placed a long strip of dull steel on the table and stepped back. "Hold the candle closer," he said. Will did. Closer. The light touched the metal. Then the old sword maker did something strange. He stepped away from the forge and crossed his arms. "Strike it." Will froze. "Strike it," he asked. "With the hammer." The hammer felt heavier than a bucket of water. His first swing was weak. The metal barely moved. The old man shook his head. Again. The second strike was louder. The third sent a small spark into the air. Soon the quiet shop filled with the sound of metal meeting metal. The boy who once stood in the corner with a candle now shaped glowing steel with shaking but growing strength. Weeks later, a young traveler came looking for a cheap blade. The old sword maker pointed toward the rack on the wall. "That one was made by the boy." The traveler picked it up, surprised by the balance. "Not bad," he said. Then he looked at the old master and laughed. "But it does not hold a candle to your work." The words hung in the air. The traveler meant no harm. People already used that saying across towns and villages. When one thing was far worse than another, they said it could not even hold a candle beside it. The meaning came from places like this shop. From the simple truth that a beginner was not ready to stand in the same light as a master. The best job he could do was hold the candle so the real work could be seen. Years passed. The old sword maker's hands grew slower. His back bent like an old tree after many storms. Will, no longer a boy, stood at the forge shaping blades that drew travelers from distant roads. His swords began to carry a quiet name through the markets. One night a young apprentice stood beside him. The boy's arm trembled while holding a candle. Sparks jumped. Smoke curled toward the ceiling. Outside, the wind pushed against the wooden door just as it had many years before. "Does my work look foolish?" the boy asked softly. Will smiled but kept his eyes on the steel. "No," he said. "Every master once held the candle. The flame stayed steady. Somewhere in your own life there may be a moment like that. Standing in the corner while others seem stronger, faster, or more skilled. It can feel like you are only holding the candle while the real work belongs to someone else. But that small light is where the path begins. One steady hand in the dark. One quiet lesson at a time. And one day someone will look at what you have built and measure it against the best work in the room.
能以非母语者的身份专注学习到现在，这本身就是很棒的进步。真诚感谢你的观看。如果你觉得本期内容实用，点赞或留言让我知道你的想法，这对我持续创作非常重要。我们下期见。